Good morning. Today is Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. So the New York Times used to have a column where they would pose a question and they would have, in quotation marks, experts give answers. So here's the question. We were at a resort town movie theater that was small and dirty with sticky floors. I know I've been in a lot of those places. A family of four came in with large box of popcorn and sat down in front of us. The parents and one child went out again. The remaining child, a girl of about 7, accidentally spilled the popcorn all over the floor. She looked around furtively and then put the popcorn back in the box. When her family returned, she said nothing about the accident, and they all began to eat. Should we have said something to the parents? Okay. It's an interesting question. What will you do? Would you have said something to the parents? Would you have not said something to the parents? I want to share with you something that I learned from Rabbi Nathan Cardozo Lopes. It's a big mistake in the way that we often teach Bereshis, the beginning of the Torah, which we started this week. And that is, we start with the first narrative, the first mitzvah. The first mitzvah, God says to Adam and Chava, to Adam and Eve, don't eat from this tree. And they do eat, and they are punished. And this sets up an understanding of the Torah and an understanding of Judaism, which tries to follow the Torah, that is so durable and it is so deep that man's first encounter with God is negative, a restriction. And it creates this image of the Torah and of Judaism and often of Jews as being a religion of taboos. Shabbos, here's the list that you cannot do. Keeping kosher, here's the list of things that you cannot have. Every area of life is restrictions. That's what it means to live a religious life, a Jewish life. And this is, tragically, this is the view that most people have, including, I fear, most Jews. And it is false. The Meshech Chochmah explains that is not the first encounter, that is not the first mitzvah that God gives to humanity. The first mitzvah is, Vayetzav Hashem Elokim al ha'adam lemor, God commanded mankind, saying, Mikol eitz hagan achol tochel, from every tree in the Garden of Eden, you may eat. Everything is here for your enjoyment. The first mitzvah is enjoy. Take, use it. It's delicious. I made it for you. That's the first mitzvah. The first mitzvah is the entire world. I created, God says, for your pleasure, for your enjoyment, for you to be happy. That's why I created it. That's what the Torah is. That is what Judaism is. And then, and only then, there are a few things that I want you not to eat because they're not good for you. For one reason or another. There are a few things I don't want you to do because they're not good for you for one reason or another. The goal of Jewish restrictions is not to form a tradition of prohibitions with the purpose of making life more difficult. Their main purpose is to give life a higher meaning. And this misunderstanding that the purpose of our tradition is to create a system of prohibitions to make life more difficult is so pervasive. But it's false. The purpose is to give life a higher meaning. And we have to be so careful to put the emphasis on where it belongs, on the positive. So, this question was asked, and there was a person, I don't know what qualifications he has, but he gave the following answer, and I think this is a good answer. He said, so should the person sitting behind this family tell the parents that the popcorn was all over the floor, it was a very dirty floor? So he said, well, that depends on what you think about letting your fellow man eat popcorn that might have mixed in with it dried up soda, everything else that's been tracked into the bottom of shoes, dirt, motor oil. I won't even mention the other things that might be there. Then he says as follows, my first impulse was to keep quiet and let the little girl enjoy her vacation. The risks are probably no greater than taking a dinner mint from a plate where everyone's reaching in their hand, and I didn't want to embarrass the girl. But then I began to worry. What if there actually was something on the floor that could cause them a health problem? He says, so let's warn the family without humiliating the child. In fact, let's compliment her. And he suggests the following response, that the adult behind should say to the parents, your daughter is so thoughtful. She accidentally spilled her popcorn on the floor and picked up every last kernel. So this way the girl is a star, no one eats the filthy popcorn, and no one gets embarrassed. Say it in a positive way, not in a negative way. He just adds, note to the parents of first graders, this is probably happening to you as we speak. Okay. But as parents and as teachers and as we ourselves grow in understanding, it is crucial for us as Jews especially to incorporate this message that the Torah is positive. Judaism wants us to enjoy life. Those things that are prohibited for our well-being. The purpose is not to make life more difficult. It's to make life more enjoyable and more meaningful. There's a fellow whose name was Randy Pausch. You may have heard of him. He wrote a book called The Last Lecture. He was a business consultant, and he became sick, and he had terminal cancer. He wanted to keep teaching his university class as long as he possibly could. And then he reached the end of that time, and he gave his final lecture, which he later published as a book before he passed away. And this contained his final major lessons that he had learned to apply to business, but it really to apply to life. Various lessons that he had learned and he wanted to pass on. It's a remarkable book. Again, The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch, P-A-U-S-C-H. I recommend it highly. So he was sick for a long time in the hospital. And of course, he had examples of many doctors, and he was a very intellectual person and a very inquisitive person. And so he would think about each interaction he had with each doctor and think to himself what he thought made a good doctor, what he thought made not a good doctor, their approach, their bedside manner. There was one doctor, his name was Dr. Wolf, and he very much admired Dr. Wolf's manner, his bedside manner, his way of relating to patients. I wished every medical student considering oncology could see what I was seeing when Dr. Wolf came to visit him. I watched Dr. Wolf use semantics to phrase whatever he could in a positive light. When we ask, how long before I die? Patients with terminal cancer and their family, how long do I have? How long before I die? He answered, you probably have 3 to 6 months of good health. Notice how he phrases it in the positive. And this reminded me of my time at Disney. So he was, for a long time, a consultant to the Disney Corporation. Now, you may know, I've shared some of this before, that the Disney Corporation that runs Disney World, Disney Place, all the Disney things, they have training for their workers in skills of how to interact with the people that come to visit. And their training is so professional and so high quality and so successful that many, many corporations come to Disney to learn how to train their own employees for whatever business they're in. So Disney runs this training university for all kinds of corporations to come and learn the techniques that they have to teach about how to be more effective in dealing with the people that you're dealing with in whatever business you're in. That reminded me of my time at Disney. Ask Disney workers, what time does the park close tonight? They're supposed to answer, they're taught to answer, they're supposed to answer. The park is open until 8 p.m. Again, you could put it in the negative, you can put it in the positive, but it's much more effective when you put it in the positive. If you put it in the positive, you allow your message to be heard so much more deeply and so much more frequently. And it allows us to frame our understanding as Jews in a completely different light. To be able to learn this lesson from our Parsha of what is actually the first mitzvah, what is actually the first encounter with God. Enjoy. Be happy. I made it all for you. And whatever is not for you is for your well-being and to give you a better life. That's the outlook we should have on Torah, on Judaism, and on life in general. My friends, I wish you a great day, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.